Welcome to EPW Trailblazers, the mini documentary series where we take a look at the wrestlers that have paved the way for explosive pro wrestling and the Australian scene at large. On this episode, we take a look at a man who was undoubtedly one of the biggest names to come out of explosive pro wrestling, finding success in Australia, Japan and the USA. Along with his tag team partner Mikey Nichols, were part of a group of pioneers that created a template for Australian wrestlers to find success in other parts of the world. On this episode, we take a look at Shane Haste.
Shane Haste was someone who was hyped up to me before I actually saw him. He was away on one of his US tours when I first started watching EPW.
Shane Haste had many matches in EPW that were downright incredible.
Fast moving, fast paced, hard hitting. It's just like a flash in the ring.
And I just heard this high flying, cool guy, and he was exactly as advertised.
Shane was probably the first person I saw come up from that mid-card level right to the top of the card.
He was a high flying, cool guy who looked like he didn't have a care in the world, but he was just so good. Everything he did was just so perfect. He was tall and he was strong, but he was fast and he was flippy.
It's just his in-ring ability. From the very early days, he had it instantly. And even transitioning those skills into the WWE right now, that further exposes our game and our platform to everywhere else around the world, everywhere he goes.
First impression of Shane Haste. First time I would have seen him was a tag team tables match with Shane and Kyle Steria as Awesome Inc., taking on Bobby Marshall and Chris J. Lazarus as GST. Just a phenomenal match and still one of my favorite live performances ever. That was my very first EPW show and they completely blew me away with the risks they were willing to take for that crowd.
He brought a whole new level of wrestling skill and talent to the entire ring. It was great to watch. It was amazing as a fan to come and see, and it was something you could easily get behind.
So his first impressions were the same as his impressions have been in the time since. He's just ridiculously good.
The first time I saw Shane Haste was at 2007's Date with Destiny, and he was the first entrance to an official match I saw in EPW, and I was honestly not expecting pyro at that show, so it scared the living crap out of me. So the first time I saw Shane, quite the bang.
It didn't seem like there was anything he couldn't do, and so far he hasn't really proven me wrong on that one, which is infuriating.
Shane was always going to prove it to everybody in his own way exactly how good he was and is.
I did actually manage to get some training in with Shane. In between, his Noah stints and just before he went to WWE, and he's done a few guest coaching times when he's been back for Christmas. When he was still in NXT, now he's on the main roster and life, so can't really come to Perth. But every time you train with Shane, he just picks up these influences from everywhere because he's been everywhere.
I've had the privilege of training with Shane for quite a long time in 2011 and 2015, and it goes to say that without his help and his guidance, my game on this platform wouldn't be at the level it is without him.
He's a difficult one to train with because he asks you to do something that should just be so easy, but it's only easy because he's Shane Haste. So you want to try impress him, you want to try get on his level, but sometimes that's just not possible. He's a fantastic trainer, obviously, and he's helped me a lot, and he's given me critiques that help me grow as a professional wrestler, but it is a very difficult standard to try work up to.
One favourite moment for me was when I saw Shane dive off of that Titantron onto 3 other competitors in the Fatal 4-Way. At that time in EPW, no one's ever seen anything like that.
One of my favourite moments being the build to the match at Reawakening 5 with Mikey. Mikey had been the top dog from the second I came in as a fan, and getting to see Shane come up to that same level and take him on was one of my favourite memories as a fan of EPW.
My favourite Shane moment, nothing to do with any of his matches. because all of his matches were just amazing. It was a training moment that will make me laugh until the end of days. We were training, and Jesse Lambert was there, and he threw someone a little bit further than he should have. Supposed to just lift him up, slam him down with the move, and he just kind of gave him a little bit of a throw. And Shane was like, no, look, I'll show you how to do it. Look, I'll do this to you. And so Shane grabbed Jesse Lambert, throws him 3/4 of the way across the ring into the opposite buckle, and it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life, because poor Jesse Lambert had no idea what was coming, and it was beautiful, and I thank you, Shane, for giving me that gift of that memory.
Favourite moments for Shane? When he actually brought out Logan Gray, because it was kind of like a passing of the torch moment, knowing that he was going off to do some big things, but then he left an imprint on EPW fans' minds by bringing a guy like Logan Gray, who lived up to the hype that Shane put behind him.
The second one that probably stands out is the cage match with Jimmy Payne for the title. Just tremendous.
And there's no way that we can't mention the first reign as EPW champion. No one ever expected him to be champion, no one envisioned to be champion, but when he became champion, rose up to another level.
Shane's impact on the Australian scene is, from my recollection, he was the first guy to really make it from Australia. People had done tours here and there, gone to Europe for a little bit, gone to the States for a bit, gone to Japan for a little bit. But when him and Mike went to Noah, that was different. They were featured. People were talking about them. They weren't just there for little guest spots. And it just made the rest of the world seem so reachable and so tangible for someone coming out of Perth.
He's been able to use the style that he created here in EPW with Mikey Nichols and TMDK, creating that entire brand that went across Australia, picked up other wrestlers like Damian Slater, the Slex, the Business, all those guys. So he stretched from Melbourne to Adelaide and even further, and now he's making a name for himself overseas at a very big company. So it's really cool to see all that kind of stuff.
On the next episode of EPW Trailblazers. Current EPW champion, New Japan Wrestling star, Mikey Nichols. Join us at EPW's next major Gate 1 event for the premiere of EPW Trailblazers Episode 3.